I'm in the office with a good friend, and we put him in front of the camera, and it's Paul Crake. We're going to talk about a few things that happened 10 years ago, but and also in the time since an accident in New Zealand in November 2006. We haven't got a script, we're just going to talk and see what comes from it. But the 11th of November 2006 changed your life entirely. Do you want to start with the discussion about that?
Yeah, Rob, so I finished my European season with my Italian team.
Racing bikes?
Racing, yeah.
Yeah.
Came back to Australia, decided to go to New Zealand to tour of Southland with a few friends. And it was on the final stage that five of us got blown off the road due to winds, but I was the one that hit the fence pole. So next thing I remember is 10 days later being told you broke your back. So, and then a week or two after that, it happened to be on my 30th birthday. I finally got to speak one-on-one with a spinal specialist who'd operated on me, and he said, think yourself like you're alive. And that was the moment that he said, you're not going to walk again. So
because this isn't a news story for us. We've talked about it in the magazine, and a lot of people who know cycling, particularly Australian cycling, would be fully aware of the Paul Crake story.
Yeah. Yes. So,
but when we covered in the magazine, we talked about it earlier, there was still an air of optimism about your predicament.
That's right. So no two spinal injuries are ever the same. If there was someone in the spinal ward at the same time as me, and he's classified as paraplegic as well. However, he's walking. He still has complications, but he's walking. But the trauma that I put my spinal cord through was pretty significant, and yeah, it's 10 years down the track. Nothing's actually, no movement, no feelings come back below this point here.
Okay.
So yeah, the mindset has changed a lot in the last 10 years, and yeah, it was 10 years ago. It was still where I was at. I was trying to deal with the accident. You need hope. You need something to grasp onto, and I still do to a degree. Don't get me wrong, but at that point in time, and obviously what we focused on with that when we spoke almost 10 years ago when I was at Prince of Wales Hospital here in Sydney, it was obviously about my aspirations to get up and walk again. So it's been psychologically, it's been a very interesting journey the last 10 years.
I think when people see someone in a wheelchair, they talk about all the physical limitations and all of that, and the way that it affects you physically. We can get into that detail, but you go straight to talking about how it affects your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because that's the hardest thing to come to terms with, really, is it?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
One day I was a professional athlete. Sport was everything. Every morning I got up, my focus was, right, training today or racing today. And then basically the next day being told, you're not going to walk again. So life was really turned upside down. So for me, it's been the psychological challenges to deal with. Other people end up in a wheelchair, but they weren't a professional athlete beforehand. It took me a few years to really get my head around it. And yeah, I've got there.
You did start speaking originally after the accident because of a plight my father finds himself in. He had a brainstem infarct when he was 38, and he's a mute quadriplegic and has been for almost 36 years. And I think that your knowledge of that helped us talk with ease about what you were going through. Is that correct?
Yes.
You feel like we talked easier than you did with other people?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also you were looking at it from that aspect as far as what I was trying to deal with. Being in the chair, being paralysed, some similarities, not to the same extreme as your father, but still some similarities. And you also knew me pre-accident, so you knew what my aspirations were as an athlete. So you knew what I was grasping with, trying to deal with.
In 2006, we were sending files off to various teams, and Dave Martin from the RAS had been quite helpful in supplying some data that you had generated on the bike. And I think from recall, he told me you were probably the second best athlete to have gone through that testing protocol. Is that close to where you were at?
Yeah, I think the VO2 max testing was, that's what we're referring to, was up there.
Yeah. What were the numbers that you pushed out at the AIS? Do you remember?
It was 85 something. Yeah.
Okay, so we could say you're a physiological freak. Dave Martin, who did the testing, referred to you as second after Cadell Evans.
I think at the time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always correlate on the bike, Rob.
No.
So it's a good start. So
you came third in the Nationals?
Third in Nationals behind Robbie one year.
Yeah. And Rob McLaughlin was second, is that right?
Yes.
And then you raced with an Austrian team?
Raced an Austrian team 2004, 2005, and then in 2006 raced for an Italian team, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best thing. Went a bit pear-shaped for me. Just didn't work out for me. Had a lot more fun in racing in 2004 and 5 for a smaller team.
But cycling wasn't the original sport. A lot of people come to bike riding through running because the injuries that you sustain aren't terribly good for you. How do you paraphrase it? We've spoken with it about it many times, but
I wouldn't say exceptional. I maybe was good at running upstairs. That was it. So
okay.
And running up hills.
Because you've got the record up the Empire State Building.
Yeah, I do.
Most people who know Paul Crake understand that history, but you told my kids last weekend that your best time was about 9:30 and no one else has done faster than 10 minutes still. Is that right?
Yeah, believe it or not, still the record still stands.
Okay.
So it's a nice one to hold on to. Yeah, so I was there 5 times. I won it 5 times, and yeah, on 4 of those occasions around under 10 minutes.
One thing that engages the people who hear about stair running is the fact that there is this focus of 2 steps at a time.
Always 2 steps.
Very, very. It's a real matter of rhythm, and is that what translated to cycling so well?
What translates to cycling and vice versa is you don't need leg speed, you need leg strength. And that was always something I struggled with as a runner. I just never had enough leg speed, but also I was never a punchy runner. I was a rhythm runner. And that was actually my weakness on the bike, is sudden accelerations always hurt me on the bike. I was just to put me at a certain tempo and I could go. And as I've said to you before, those last couple of years where I was popping back in and doing a couple of stair races at the end of the cycling season, I could do them off just a couple of specific stair sessions, no running, but bike fitness. And I could pull off the same sort of times that I was doing before when I was runner. So, but as you get older, you get wiser. You figure out what works training wise and what doesn't.
You were racing at about 63 kilo?
Yeah, race weight was 63, 62 kilos.
Yeah. And even, so let's say 12 or 14 years ago you were aware of your power output and you were pushing pretty good numbers in terms of wattage, weren't you?
Yeah, reasonably good. Not some of the numbers we see, but yeah, my maximum wattages were nothing. It was what I was able to sustain on the climbs that seemed to hold me in reasonably good, hold me in at a reasonable level compared to others.
But you're also racing as an honest bloke. I remember you've talked to me, we've been able to be open about a lot of topics.
Yeah.
And you said that one time you had some cortisone use brought on by an injury and the team insisted on it, and you said it was pretty, you didn't like it at all.
Yeah, it was the one time I've taken cortisone, and now I can see in the reports, I can understand why people took cortisone. The way I rode the bike for the next few days was incredible.
Right.
Yeah, they had me motor pacing the next day behind the car, and it was just incredible. I've never experienced anything quite like it. For a few days I went like a scolded cat, and then after that it was just like back issues came back, referral issues came back.
We talk about cycling because I publish a cycling magazine.
Exactly.
But you'd be 40 soon. In other words, you know, even without the accident, you'd be out of a career as a pro cyclist now. Do you think you would have kept going? If you hadn't?
Yeah, I have thought about that on a number of occasions, because arguably my career would have wound up well and truly by now, and I think to myself, what would have I done in my transition? Because it's post-professional athlete. It's not always easy to reintegrate. In some ways, as a result of my accident, everything. Obviously, my cycling career came to an end, and what I ended up doing for work also changed totally.
Yeah.
So where I'm at now is, well, we can guarantee it's related to the fact that I'm sitting in a wheelchair.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're selling hand controls for cars.
Yeah.
Or more than hand controls. Can you explain quickly what the...
Yeah, so obviously within 8 months of my accident I was living back in Italy with my Italian girlfriend, now wife, Danny, and shortly after that I had hand controls fitted, because obviously I have to drive a car just with my hands, can't use my legs. And that was probably the point where I started to really piece my life back together. The fact that I had independence, could go out, you know, those days where I was like not necessarily travelling so well psychologically, get out in the car and have freedom.
Yeah.
Have normality. And
because you loved your car before anyway, didn't you? You enjoyed...
Yeah, I love driving. I love driving in Europe. Yeah. And that was something I missed. So getting that back again was a big step, getting my whole life back together. So I lived in Italy for four and a half years after the accident, and came back and looked at what was available, realised that there was a gap or a void in the market, and started to bring this equipment into Australia. So we bring a whole range of driving controls and other disability or automotive equipment that's intended for getting people in and out of vehicles. So, and it's a very niche market, and it's a very rewarding and satisfying job, because I'm not just selling a bike or, you know, selling a bottle of wine here. We're selling a product that actually does make quite a significant difference to someone's life. And time again I see firsthand people that have been in my predicament struggling, and just any little thing that we can do for them to try and help piece their life or get their life back together. And driving is, generally speaking, is one of those aspects. We're helping people. Driving is one of the few moments that you actually truly forget about the wheelchair and the fact that your legs don't work. There are a lot of issues when it comes to driving a motor vehicle, and obviously getting these new forms of equipment certified initially in Australia. We had a few challenges, because when I show someone that I can accelerate my car, and it's a wireless unit that's actually not connected to the car, they tend to freak out initially until they actually start to see how it works and how it changes the dynamics for me driving, how it helps me drive competently and safely. And yeah, we need to demonstrate reliability.
When you first had your accident, I saw the x-rays of your spine, and basically
You got a good memory, Rob.
the last bastion of hope was that was, I can put my hands in the picture,
like
but
this,
it was like this, and the point was that you folded your spinal column, wasn't it? Like you compressed it.
I did. Instead of the vertebrae being like that,
Yes.
I did that.
Yes, exactly.
So totally separated. So the spine was doing something like that.
And Captain Buchanan's brother, for example, had an accident, and he was quadriplegic for a little while, and then he's walked again, which is the ultimate dream of any spinal injury. Did surgeons ever hold that hope for you?
Never.
Okay. Did they dress it up and sort of suggest that there might be some hope?
No. The spinal surgeons, they don't know how to dress it up.
Pretty blunt people.
Yeah, especially the spinal specialist I had.
Does that mean you had no respect for them?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think that's possibly how they have to be.
Okay.
Because if everyone they were piecing back together and operating on, they got emotionally attached, well, they'd have a pretty hard time, I think.
We're talking about this now largely prompted by Sam Willoughby, because I don't know Sam, but I've watched him on telly, and I'm so amazed at what he does. The skill level that he has on the BMX bike is beyond my comprehension. You don't know Sam?
Not personally, no.
But you've heard about what's happened. So they've basically made a titanium vertebrae, and they're giving him a little bit of hope that there's feeling coming again. Just from what you've read, do you think that he has a lot of hope?
It's difficult to say, and it's not something you or I can really. We're not in a position to make a call on that one. You never wish spinal trauma on anyone, because the ramifications are severe and often permanent.
And to get Sam on the phone now, what would you say to him? What would you be talking about? How would you advise?
It's a hard one. It's very. Oh, Rob. It's. I don't wish anyone to have to go through what I experienced.
Yeah.
It's challenging at the best of times. I've been posed that question just recently from America, and the reality of it is I don't really know what to say, because regardless of the outcome, he's gonna be in for it's going to be a long road to recovery. You can try and dampen down the scenario, but the reality of it is he's not broken his arm here. He's done spinal trauma.
Yeah.
So, but I always say, let there be hope. There has to be hope. But one of the things that always drove me in training was improvement. Okay, all results. Now, the results were not always positive. You weren't always riding the bike faster after each session, but you always see a change, and there's always a reason behind that change. So, you know, if you get sick, you get slow on the bike, or if you lose, you don't ride the bike for a month and then you get back on it. Your first days on the bike is pretty hard going, but you see these improvements. And I used to get so much satisfaction seeing those improvements. And obviously when you're at the higher level, those improvements are just minimalistic, but every little improvement was something. That's something I'm challenged with on sitting in a wheelchair, is it doesn't matter what I do for my lower body, there is no improvement. I don't see anything. So that's probably what I miss about the bike, the fact that you don't see those changes. And I've got very fond memories of riding a bike in the Alps in summer. To me, that's
what you do it for.
That's it. What you do it for.
It's hard to come to terms with the idea of having no sensation, but let's be clear, that's what's happened to you. You don't have feeling below your sternum. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, no feeling, no movement, nothing whatsoever.
There's a French movie where a helper pours boiling water on a quadriplegic just to ascertain that he doesn't have feeling.
Great movie.
If you poured boiling water on your legs, you wouldn't feel it?
No.
You'd just have third-degree burns and you'd have to tend to it.
Correct.
It's a hard concept to come to.
Yeah, we've got to be very careful in that aspect, especially transferring, and because also the bone density is not great. Because there's no impact, no load being put through them, so bone density deteriorates significantly.
Yeah.
So I speak to other wheelchair users, and they'll say, "Yeah, I've gone and broken my leg doing this or this," and it just takes one careless moment of transferring, and your leg gets caught, and next thing you go and break your femur in half.
You talked to me earlier. What was that term you used about pain that you have that you don't know?
Yeah, neuropathic or phantom pains.
Phantom pains.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
It's a hard one to explain because the doctors can't always explain it.
But you're living with it, so you go through it. So it could be, let's say you.
All right. So because the nerves have been basically, all the nerve function stops at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. You get neuropathic pain. So you think, or I feel that there's pain, for example, in my stomach area, a burning sensation, but it's a phantom pain.
Right.
And it's resulting from the fact that I've got spinal trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way I deal with the neuropathic pain is keeping busy, keeping occupied. Yeah. If I'm just sitting around doing nothing, that's the worst thing for me. The best thing that's happened to me post-accident, apart from getting married to Danny, I have to say that, would be having a focus with the work.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't have to come through work, it could have come through other means. Okay, but for me it wasn't chasing the Paralympic dream, wasn't interested.
No,
not interested at all. Simply because of my background, and I didn't want to have to relive things. Okay, so that's one of the little issues I have is people say, why don't I jump on a handbike? So, well, I've got no desire to jump on a handbike. Can you imagine me trying to go up a hill? I'm going to be pretty slow. And I'll always be thinking about, how easy it was to ride up a hill before. So I just don't even go there. But physically, I enjoy going to the gym because I can still exert myself, but I'm not benchmarking it against anything before.
Yeah.
That's the challenge, see.
Yeah.
So But so for me, my focus is my driving factor. I wake up in the morning or the alarm goes off and I'm like, oh, my driving factor is yep, I've got work to do today. I've got a plan of attack. That's what we need. I'm more reliant on the need for that focus than I was before the accident.
Yeah.
Because it's too easy to start to dwell on things and go, yeah, I'm in a chair, you know. No. Best way to deal with it, just get out there and go. It's difficult to take things for granted when every day you're reminded of the chair.
Yeah.
Human nature is what it is.
Yeah.
So we all can be reminded from time to time. I don't look back and go, oh, but only, or what if this scenario played out. I always remember there was a couple of weeks before that I went and ran up, did my last stair race, Type A 101. And I remember the week before I flew out to Type A and I'd come up to Sydney to do a stair session, and I'd only just got back in Australia and I went across the road and I looked the wrong way, and you know, I almost got cleaned up that day. Now
that could have been the moment.
That could have been the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't look back and go, oh, I wish I'd never gone to New Zealand.
Okay.
Or because the reality is
You did?
I did. You know.
Yeah.
But I look at what I did on the bike in Europe, for example. Like, you live on the edge at times.
Yes.
As a cyclist, you live on the edge.
When it comes to the cycling community, is there some sort of particular message that you'd like to send out to them?
I think coming back to human nature, we always take things for granted. So we just assume that we can go out there, do as we please. Even when I was riding the bike, you know, in my best form, you tend to take things for granted, and that's what I always say to people: never take it for granted, because just like that, things can change in one moment, and we are reminded of it. But I think sometimes it doesn't hurt just to
Double check. Triple check.
Yeah.
Enjoy the moment.
Yeah, enjoy the moment, appreciate the moment. Don't take things for granted.
Thanks for chatting, Paul.
Thanks for the chat, Rob. Thanks for having me.